All right, I think we are officially live on YouTube. So for our attendees who have already made it in, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, maybe put where you're calling in from. If you want to put your zip code in there too, we'd really appreciate that, because it helps us evaluate who we're impacting and where. And of course, because we are streaming to YouTube, and go ahead and drop the link in the chat in case you want to share it with friends and family who may not be able to be in the Zoom room with us. Because we are streaming live to YouTube, anything you say in the chat we may mention on the recording, so that's just a heads up. And it looks like one of the people who's in here, his name's Jim. He is an educator who knows all about Alzheimer's research. He studied the blood of patients as a technician. Very cool. Thanks for being here. Oh my gosh, we got someone from Olathe, which is great. Hi, Lynn. Thanks for being here. And if you all want, when you respond to the chat, select all panelists and attendees so we can kind of keep a dynamic chat discussion going. I'm going to go ahead and post our live link on Twitter, just so as many people as possible can see it.
Have you done that before?
Post things on Twitter?
Yeah, the live Zoom link.
No, I'm posting the YouTube live stream.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I know you were Zoom bombed. No, we learned from you.
Yeah, still in recovery.
Oh man.
I feel like it'll be less traumatic if people get into our YouTube comments, because I mean, we can just delete those. All right, tweeted it live, and now let's go to Facebook, just so as many people can discover this as possible. For those of you, I think some new people came in, don't be shy, say hi in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. All right, we have posted to YouTube and Twitter, and I tagged all of our home institutions. For those of you who might be watching the YouTube live stream, we typically are, it's a little bit more engaging in the Zoom room. So I'd recommend, finding this on SciStarter events and joining us on Zoom. You still can. At scistarter.org/events. Otherwise, on YouTube, if you put any comments, we'll make sure to respond to those and get in touch with you. But for everybody else, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our attendees. We're going to get started in just about 2 minutes. So just hang tight and think about questions you might have about citizen science, Alzheimer's, and playing a game to solve a problem. I see Judy Brown's here. She's a public librarian, I think. I forget which library in California you're from, Judy, but good to see you. I know you're getting ready for your event. There's Robin. I'm going to promote her to panelist. Robin always helps us by monitoring the YouTube. Hey, Robin.
Hello.
I'm putting the YouTube link in the chat, Robin, so you can monitor those comments and make sure our friends on YouTube are engaged. I know we have 2 people watching now. Yes, Judy's at the San Miguel Library. Let's look at what's Judy's event going to be. I think you're all are doing Debris Tracker, which is a super cool project. So much fun citizen science to go around. All right, and we're right at 6:30, so we'll just get started. We'll be prompt. Hello, everyone. Hello to our attendees. Thanks for being here. I'm Caroline Nickerson. I'm a program manager at SciStarter. And I am here today because of the efforts of a lot of amazing people, including the Olathe Public Library, the network of the National Library of Medicine All of Us Research Program, and all the people behind the Imagine Your Story summer reading program who helped put this together for you. The theme of it is Citizen Science meets Summer Reading. So we're doing our best to, connect the Imagine Your Story theme to real science you can do. And as people come into the Zoom room, please keep in mind that we are streaming this live to YouTube. So anything you put in the Zoom chat, and please select all panelists and attendees, by the way, we may read out and it may be part of the public record and the recording forevermore. So just keep that in mind. But otherwise, as you all come on in, introduce yourself in the chat and also fill out this poll for us. We want to know a little bit more about you and what you've done and contributed to. So if you've contributed to a citizen science project before, please let us know. Yes, no, unsure. There are no bad answers. So just answer that poll as you come on in. Looks like a lot of no's so far, a few yeses. If you want to tell us in the chat the projects you have contributed to, that'd be awesome. All right, we're going to end the poll in just a second. So 3, 2, 1. All right, let's end the poll. So it looks like the vast majority of attendees have not contributed to a citizen science project before, but a few have. That's by the end of this event, you'll know exactly what to do to contribute to stall catchers, so you're in the right place. And this is for everybody. We just want to know a little bit more about you. So who are you? Are you an aspiring citizen scientist? Are you a parent of an aspiring citizen scientist? Are you a teacher, an educator, a troop leader? Are you a librarian or part of a library staff? Are you a researcher or a project leader? Are you just a bored person on the internet? Or are you none of these? And for our friends watching on YouTube, just put in the comments what you consider your role to be. So I'll give you all just a few more seconds to vote. Looks like we have a few citizen science. It's pretty evenly spread. Some people are none of these, so it's good to know that you're not bored people on the internet. By the end of today, all of you should be citizen scientists. So I'm going to end the poll in just a second. Make sure you get your votes in. 3, 2, 1, and we're going to end the poll. So it looks like the majority are none of these, but we have a citizen scientist, an educator, a library staff member, and a researcher on the line. So thanks for being here. And to get us started, Allison from the Olathe Public Library is going to talk about upcoming programs and ways to be involved with your library. Allison, take it away.
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, everybody. For those of you who are local, I just want to give a shout out to you specifically. And for those of you who are not, thank you for joining us. This is the first time we've partnered with SciStarter, so I'm really excited to dig into the project with you tonight. Before we do that, though, those of you who are in the area, you may know that we have been doing all virtual programming at this summer. And then stepping into the fall, we have a few that are coming up kind of here at the end of August, beginning of September that I want to point out specifically. But whether you are an adult or a teen or a parent of an elementary aged kid, we've got programs galore for all 3 audiences, and you can find those at the link here. I may put a link in the chat. Maybe I should do that. To our events calendar, and you can see everything for all ages. 3 programs specifically for adults coming up. We have our classic book group, Book Munch, midday. They're going to be meeting actually Wednesday from 1 to 2:30 p.m. on Zoom. Then we have another classic Zoom program. That's our Stretch and Restore yoga program. And you're going to find that next Tuesday from 9:30 to 10:15 a.m. And then as part of the end of our Imagine Your Story programming, we have a local author based here in Olathe who's going to be leading us through the perilous realm, talking about moral components in fairy tales. And that's also going to be on Zoom. It will be on Thursday, September 3rd in the evening. For those of you who live in Johnson County or the surrounding area, you may be aware of this, but just in case you're not, our friends of the Olathe Public Library are still doing their grab bag book sale. You can go to the link right here that's a Squarespace site, and you can request a random bag of books. You can tell us the audience or age group you're looking for and or a favorite genre, and our wonderful volunteers and staff are going to pull together a random assortment of new reads for you. So if you're local, be sure to check that out.
Great. Thank you, Allison. So some of you who, I know a lot of you haven't done citizen science before, and you may be wondering, what is citizen science? Well, good news, citizen science is a collaboration between scientists and those of us who are curious, concerned, and motivated to make a difference, and anyone can do it. So we're super excited to bring citizen science and collaborate with you all in Olathe, Kansas, and all around the world. So basically, the best way to get started with citizen science is to make a SciStarter account. This can kind of be your passport to all sorts of different citizen science projects and help you discover them. So at this point in the program, we hope that you all go to scistarter.org/NLM to make your SciStarter account. You can make your SciStarter account and discover a bunch of different projects all on this page. And because you have a SciStarter account, you'll be able to keep track of the number and the frequency of your contributions to different projects all on your SciStarter dashboard. So citizen science is a really broad field. It's everything from astronomy to zoology and everything in between. And the reason I care about citizen science and why I'm a citizen scientist is because I'm able to volunteer my time to turn my curiosity into impact. So I'm able to address issues I care about, like Alzheimer's disease, through citizen science and be a part of the research project to discover new knowledge and create solutions. And citizen science, if you care about the environment and you want to go outside and help contribute to our understanding of the natural world, if you care about health problems, if you are really interested in the night sky, there's a citizen science project for you. And the project's on scistarter.org/NLM. I think those are really good projects to get you started because you don't need special equipment to do them. All you really need is an internet connection and a device that allows you to contribute data. So, you can place stall catchers just on your computer or on your tablet. You can take pictures with your cell phone and contribute them to Debris Tracker and help monitor plastic pollution. So just please make your SciStarter account and get started with projects that need your help to turn your curiosity into impact. Also on this page, you'll find an Introduction to Citizen Science tutorial. It takes about 30 minutes to click through it, and it's offered in English and in Spanish. And at the end, you get a certificate. And the reason why we made this tutorial is people were looking for an easy way to explain the what, the how, the who, and the why of citizen science. So we know a lot of educators use this tutorial. It's written at a 5th grade level, so it's applicable from everyone from the 5th grade on up for adults and for students. In this tutorial, at the end of it, you should have an understanding of the landscape of citizen science, the projects that are out there, and why people participate, and the best practices for participating and contributing meaningful data and analysis to different projects. So today we're taking a deep dive into the stall catchers project. We have the project leader and creator, Pietro Michelucci, on the line, who's going to talk a little bit about his story to be part of the Imagine Your Story theme of summer reading. And he's also going to talk about the story of stall catchers and how you can get involved in stall catchers today to help accelerate Alzheimer's research. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen to let Pietro go ahead and share his, because he has some slides for you to step you through his story and through stall catchers. So Pietro, I'll stop sharing and I'll let you start sharing.
Okay, thanks, Caroline.
Yeah.
Pardon me while I find the right screen here, unless you want to read all my emails, which you probably don't. Okay. Let's see. Is this right?
There we are. Right. And you just click present. The button in the top right corner.
Yeah, all the faces are in front of it.
Oh no!
Here we go. I'm given the option to share with people in groups.
Oh, so click done.
I clicked the wrong share, didn't I?
You click present. So you can actually minimize our faces.
There we go.
All right.
So, I'm technologically challenged, so I appreciate your patience here. Um, well, first of all, it's a pleasure to, to be speaking with another library. I spoke with one a couple of weeks ago. It feels like I'm traveling around the country to different libraries, and I really like libraries. And every time I listen to a library representative, as we just did, talk about programs and opportunities through the library, it makes me want to actually go back and spend more time at my local library. So whatever message you're putting out, it's working on me. Um, so I'm sort of I'm a self-professed geek, and this is me in, I think, somewhere around 19. Yeah, I'm gonna say early 80s. And what was funny is nobody can seem to figure out which one I am in this picture, and I'm just wondering, just to add another poll, if anyone can figure out who I am.
Put your guess in the chat, everyone. I couldn't guess it, so I'll just put that out there.
I shared that with my family. They thought it was the funniest thing. To them, apparently it's obvious, but so any guesses?
In the chat, someone said the kid in the front row with the Izod shirt. No, you're wrong. I'm sorry. That's what I thought too.
Well, I think that's very generous. Yeah, I would be happy with that, with identifying with that child. But I'm actually the one with the Mickey Mouse shirt in the back, looking kind of dazed and confused. And so that was, yep, there we go. That was me in 1982 as part of the chess club, and then a few years later, when I was a senior in high school. Well, that's me as a senior, but a couple years before that, while still in high school, I decided to skip school one day, which is not, I'm not advocating that people not go to school, although apparently that's becoming the new normal. I did so because I had just gotten a new what we called a home computer, back then. So it wasn't so commonplace. People didn't all have computers in their homes, but there were these new computers that were relatively inexpensive, and I worked all summer so I could doing yard work and stuff for neighbors so that I could afford to buy one of these. And I finally got one, and I wanted to program a game on this computer called Defender. So this is a game you could play in the arcade, but I thought it would be fun. I had started doing some programming and I wanted to try it out, except that my computer was too slow. So there's this basic programming language, and you could make the computer do a lot of things, but it was just the computers back then were, 1,000 or 100,000 times slower than your smartphone today. So I had to teach myself machine language programming, and that's how I spent my day at home from school, was to learn to do that so I could recreate this. And I was really surprised when it actually worked by the end of the day. So that tells you a little about sort of how I kind of fly by the seat of my pants and follow my interests. And so, everyone's sort of multifaceted. And I think for me, I was fascinated by computers, especially because I could tell them what to do in very specific terms, and they would follow my exact steps and do the things I wanted them to do. But I was equally fascinated with humans and how they didn't behave that way. They behave quite randomly and unpredictably, and I kind of wanted to study that too. So as I was heading off to college, I discovered there's a program called Cognitive Science at the University of Rochester, which combined my two interests. So it's an interdisciplinary field that studies thinking in humans and animals, in machines. And so within that cognitive science program, I could actually pursue my dual interests in computers and humans. So in that context, I was working with a professor there who was a linguist, and he was kind of interested in the architecture of the human brain. And at that time, we were using these things called connectionist models, which today are referred to more commonly as neural networks and often part of machine learning. So we actually had these back then, but they were much simpler, and of course the computers were much slower, so we couldn't do as much. But they were very useful for trying to see if we could recreate the way that human learning takes place in the context of a machine-based model of human learning by having this kind of proxy of neurons in the brain that are connected to each other, and doing that in a computational, in a machine-based computational environment. Around the same time, the internet was becoming sort of more commonly used, especially in academic environments. It was pre-web, but the internet was there. People were using email, and so one of the things that was just very salient to me was that that the internet was connecting people all over the world, like as though each person was sort of a computational node. And with all these people connected to each other, it struck me, what if we could build a brain out of people that are connected to each other as nodes, just the way we're building these connectionist models in the lab? And I think that for me was sort of that planted the seed for a trajectory that led me to actually exploring in earnest how we could potentially build intelligent systems, distributed systems of humans and machines connected to each other in a kind of a brain that could do more than individual humans or machines could do by themselves. So human brains think very differently than machine brains. So that's why machines are very good at doing what you tell them. Although a lot of people would disagree with that now. Machines have gotten pretty complicated. But in principle, they will do what you tell them if you tell them the right thing. And that's because they're very good at following a procedure and counting numbers and doing simple calculations. The most basic calculator from 1960 is still faster at multiplying two numbers together than any human today. And that's why we built them, because we wanted a kind of a system that was complementary to our own thinking. Humans are really good at predicting things, at taking world knowledge and applying it to a situation, to understanding and creating metaphors, to generating new ideas and doing abstract reasoning. But humans are extremely poor when it comes to symbolic reasoning. So there's sort of a natural kind of complementarity that's by design between computing systems and humans. Over time, we've been trying to get machines to be more human-like, even though they weren't originally built to do that. And that's challenging because they're naturally not designed for that purpose. But I think this AI timeline is actually kind of slowing down. The closer we get to human-like capabilities, the harder it is to get to each new capability. And I think it's kind of asymptotic. So you have people who believe that, the AI is coming to take over and the singularity is approaching. I'm a bit of a contrarian in that regard, in the sense that I think that there's going to be a role for humans in the computational loop for quite some time, and that the AI revolution is actually creating a new kind of jobs. It's creating cognitive labor. And I think citizen science, this opportunity to participate by contributing your cognitive skills in a distributed system to solve a problem, I think that is the very beginning of a new kind of thinking economy that we're headed toward. One, I think, sort of poignant application of citizen science is to take all these human minds that can be connected together into a problem-solving system and try to leverage that capability, a human-powered supercomputer, to tackle a disease that affects human minds themselves. And so that was a very compelling opportunity when I met a researcher at Cornell University who was studying Alzheimer's disease, and he actually had a problem that lent itself to citizen science. So when I met Chris Schaefer and his co-director Nozomi Nishimura, they explained that one thing we've known about Alzheimer's disease since almost the very beginning of the disease is that patients with Alzheimer's have about 30% less brain blood flow than healthy people. Except it hasn't really been understood why that is. What's the underlying mechanism? And so just to give you a sense of what a 30% reduction in brain blood flow feels like, it's that feeling that you have if you've been lying down and then you suddenly stand up and you're dizzy. That's about a 30% reduction in oxygenation from brain blood flow. And and people with Alzheimer's disease, have that state of reduced blood flow all the time. So Chris and Nozomi explained that they'd had some very tantalizing early findings suggesting that there are these tiny capillaries in the brain that are part of the vasculature, and that it was actually tiny little stalls in these capillaries that was reducing the brain blood flow. So they did this study. They have mice that they give the human version of Alzheimer's disease to, and then they have the healthy mice. So they develop some tools that allow them to look into the mouse brains while the mice are alive and evaluate the blood flow in the mouse brains deep into the layers of brain tissue. And what they found was that in the healthy mice, 0.5% of those capillaries were stalled, but in the Alzheimer's mice, 2% of the capillaries were stalled. So that might not sound like a big difference, but when they looked at the downstream effects of those 2% of stalled capillaries, they found an overall reduction in brain blood flow of 30%, which aligned with what had been observed in human patients. And follow-up studies provided increasing support for this hypothesis. One of the remarkable things about this finding is that when they evaluated these Alzheimer's mice for cognitive symptoms, and indeed had demonstrated memory loss and other symptoms, other cognitive symptoms of the disease, that when they introduced a chemical compound that alleviated those stalled capillaries, the Alzheimer's mice got their memories back and these cognitive symptoms went away. So, once they told me that, I got really excited. And of course, my next question was, well, so this is all great. What, why are we talking at all? It sounds like you're on the right track. And they explained that for every hour of imaging that they do on one of these mice, it takes about a week to analyze the data from that 1 hour of imaging. And to answer a single research question based on this approach would take their lab technicians 6 months to a year to analyze the data required to answer that research question. So, this is by normal research standards, this is a very slow rate of progress and made it difficult to pursue all the research questions they needed to pursue in a reasonable amount of time. So then the question was, how could we potentially address this with citizen science? So my colleagues and I explored this further, and eventually we realized there was an opportunity to create an online game, which exists today, called Stall Catchers. And the idea behind Stall Catchers is that we take this analysis of the images, the videos from the live mouse brains, and draw a little outline around a single capillary. And then we ask the person playing the game to decide if the blood inside the outline is flowing or stalled. So it's a simple binary forced choice task, as we say. You have two options and you have to pick one of them. And it turns out that people are much better at this than machines. In fact, one of the first questions I asked Chris and Nozomi was, have you tried machine learning? Have you tried machine-based classification? And they had, and they said, the best machine based method they tried got about 85% right, and they needed to have about 99% accuracy. And it turns out that humans can provide that. So today, we have over 28,000 people registered on Stall Catchers. On any given day, 50 to 100 of them are playing. We're analyzing the research data about 5 times faster than in the lab. And we're answering research questions in 1 to 2 months instead of 6 to 12 months each, which means that we're actually starting to develop a much better understanding of the upstream molecular mechanisms that are implicated in this capillary stalling phenomenon. So, one question that comes up is, if they were able to give the mice a compound that makes the stalls go away, isn't that the answer? And the problem is that what they were giving the mice was an immunosuppressant. So it's something. It's like giving the mouse AIDS. It's where the cure would be worse than the disease. So the challenge now is to figure out a way to disrupt that process that causes the stalls in a way that's not harmful to the animal. So this is what it looks like to play stall catchers. Hope you can see this video. So this is an example. There's a stall right there that's found, and somebody who's playing the game in this example identifies the stall. And that little pop-up is just part of the onboarding process. So there's a tutorial that teaches you how to play the game and walks you through the early stages of the game so that you can learn how to play. So stall catchers has been active for, I think, over 4 years now, and we've answered some research questions related to Alzheimer's disease, as I mentioned. And one of the things we care about is acknowledging the role of citizen science volunteers. And one way we do that is to mention them in the publications in academic journals, to acknowledge their contributions. So you can see here we have stall catchers contributors on the co-author line. And then there's a hyperlink. So if anybody goes and looks at this article online, they click on the hyperlink for stall catchers contributors, you see a list of all of the players who specifically contributed to the analysis of the data that was required to answer this research question. And we're not the only citizen science project to do that. In fact, we got the idea from Stardust at Home. And a lot of these are top tier journals where this work is getting published. So, I mean, there are citizen science volunteers who are getting publication credits that academics spend a lifetime trying to get. So as I mentioned, we've enabled a rate of research that now permits filling in this model to better understand what's causing these capillaries to form in the capillary stalls to occur in the first place, and to intercept that process and disrupt it. So wherever you see this is a picture of a hypothetical model of what's going on that's being tested by the lab, and each check mark here represents one question that's been answered by stall catchers that helps confirm that or provide support for this model. These red question marks are new questions that are being answered currently in stall catchers. And once we finish answering these, if they all end up being green check marks, that points us in a very specific direction about a potential treatment that could go into clinical trials, for example, for human use. So we feel like, this kind of a map shows us we really are making progress, and it's important to us, and we spend time and effort to communicate back to our volunteer community what research questions we're asking and what kind of progress we're making.
All right, I'm going to steal
it.
the screen share back from you so I can share the screen for the Q&A. Thank you so much to Pietro. So Allison, do you have some questions for us today?
I do. Well, Pietro, I guess we could start off with obviously the theme of the collaborative summer reading project is imagine your story, right? So how are you telling the story of stall catchers?
So I think for me, the story of stall catchers is a story of the village coming together to solve a problem. At every step of the way in the development of stall catchers, folks have just come out of the woodwork to help make it a reality, to make it successful, to all try to reduce the suffering that's caused by Alzheimer's disease. When I first saw the image analysis that Chris Schaefer was doing in the lab, it reminded me of a citizen science project I myself participated in 2006 called Stardust at Home, that was about trying to find dust particles that were embedded in aerogel collected by a spacecraft that flew through the tail of a comet. But when I looked at the images of the capillaries, it immediately brought to mind the same kinds of images that I was looking at when I was looking for stardust in the aerogel. And I remembered in that project, they had this thing called a virtual microscope that allowed you to kind of focus into deeper or shallower levels of aerogel. And I thought, that's exactly what we need for a citizen science project to look at these blood vessels. So I called Andrew Westphal, the progenitor of the Stardust Project, and I explained what we were trying to do. And I asked him, if he thought that approach would work. And he said, yeah. He said, I think it could work, and I'd be happy to personally help you with that. And he lost his own father to Alzheimer's disease. I think that had something to do with it. But I think he would have helped anyway. He's just that kind of person. So it's really been about people helping.
I love that. And like doing it through a game is just wonderful. That part I think is so special.
Some people have a lot of fun, actually. They get very competitive sometimes.
You can learn and research and have fun. Sorry, that was lame, but thank you for laughing. I appreciate it. And that, you talked about people helping and people coming together. Will you tell us more about the catchers community? Like, what are they like?
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I just so like I said, this the Stall Catchers has been running for about 4 years, and I learn something new. I meet someone new from our community at least once a week, and um, it's just full of really unique personalities, but everyone's bringing um, something, positive energy to the interactions. People have nicknames for each other in the chat. We have folks who have taken on mentorship roles in the community, and we've sort of formalized it. At first it was kind of informally, they'd just been around the longest and they were just helping people, and we said, hey, we'd like to put a star next to your name, would you be okay with that? And they said, sure. And so and I think this is critical for any citizen science project to have a strong community involved. We had we have some young people playing, so our demographic tends to be bimodal. It's either older retired people who either have a sort of a personal connection to Alzheimer's disease. They might be caregivers for a spouse. Um, and we have a lot of students, so middle school and high school students who are participating to learn more about science or Alzheimer's disease or both, or even just about citizen science and how that works. And so you get these cross-generational relationships. So we have, kids showing up at a certain time of day, and then the older players will kind of welcome them, ask them how their day is going. It's kind of like grandparents and grandchildren. It's really cool.
I love that, an intergenerational gaming research experience. I mean, that's beautiful. That's
Who'da
great.
thunk? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I want to pause for just a second with my list of questions. Caroline, I see a question from an attendee that I don't, do you want to
Yeah,
wait?
go for it. You can read it out.
Okay, so this comes from Serena, and Pietro, this is what she wants to know. And I think it would be good just for all of us to hear again. Um, she's asking for clarity with what the game does. Are you saying that by playing the game, it helps to teach a machine to spot the stalls more accurately like the humans do?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, thanks for asking that, Serena. I normally cover that in the talk. I think it just slipped my mind today. So the original purpose of the game, the reason that that you're looking at these capillaries is that anytime we have an Alzheimer's mouse and we want to see if a new drug compound can release these stalls, right? We'll do an imaging session on the mouse when it has the disease state of Alzheimer's. And then someone needs to count all the stalls to figure out how many there are. So we just divide and conquer. And that's what stall catchers does. We take lots of different slices of the brain. We're not actually slicing the brain. We're just, but we take lots of different images of different parts of the brain. And then all the players look through, and by saying whether there's a stall or not, you're helping us count those stalls. Then we might introduce a drug, a possible treatment target, and then we have to recount those stalls to see if any of them went away. So that's when you're playing the game, you're basically just helping us to count the stalls. Does that make sense?
I mean, that helped me get it, because I'll admit I was trying to connect that as well. So that makes sense.
Yeah, great question. Thanks.
So I guess then the hope would be eventually that the number would be fewer stalls.
Well, that's what we hope for. And sometimes, sometimes we're just trying to verify something that we already think might be true, and about different ways to disrupt that process that forms the stalls. And then sometimes we're surprised. Something that we didn't expect actually turns out to be true. So we've done some studies that look at impacts of exercise and diet on stall rate. And sometimes what we found is that they do contribute to stalling, but that the intervention mechanisms we're exploring that disrupt stalling don't always disrupt the stalls that are caused by these other things. So it's kind of a complicated story, and I frankly don't understand all of it. Fortunately, I'm not the biomedical researcher, but we are getting closer, I think, to the answers that we need to help people.
That's good news. Love that.
Yeah.
Pivoting just slightly, Pietro, how have libraries been a part of the Stall Catchers project?
Yeah, well, I think, my big introduction to libraries, and maybe libraries' big introduction to stall catchers, was an event that we did in collaboration with SciStarter for Citizen Science Month. I think it was in 2019, April, where we set our ambitions very high, and our goal was to answer a research question not in 1 or 2 months, but in a single weekend, by getting enough people together. And we worked with the National Network of Libraries of Medicine to recruit library patrons to be part of that historic event. And we actually did end up achieving, in, I guess, what I would call a long weekend. I think we set a world record in biomedical, in crowd-powered biomedical analysis. It was amazing. So that was the great beginning to the relationship we have with libraries.
That is impressive. Just a couple days, like.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It blew me away.
Let's see, Caroline, how are we doing on time?
We have about, I would say, like 7 or so minutes left. So I bet you could ask around 3 more questions, maybe a few from the chat. And if you have any other ones that you wanted to ask, those would be great too.
Oh yeah, sure. And just to reiterate that to all you attendees, if y'all have questions like how Serena shared one, go ahead and throw them out there and I'll try to grab them in the time that we have. Let's see. I don't know that I have any more specific to the project.
I have a quick question for Pietro. I'm wondering what's next for stall catchers, because I was thinking about the so what we called the big stall catchers library collaboration back in 2019 was the Megathon. I was thinking about the Megathon and smiling with all the work we did with libraries. So I'm wondering for Pietro, what's next? Like what other big things do you all have on the horizon?
Wow. Well, we're never short on ambition, but we're always short on staff and time. but we are so our current project is actually, I should say, our current active initiative is a spin-off of stall catchers called Dream Catchers that helps with sudden infant death syndrome research. Um, and in that project, instead of looking at blood vessels in a mouse brain, you're looking at infant images in different sleep environments and trying to assess whether or not those are safe. And of course, you get guidance about what to look for in that. So we launched that last year. We're going to have a relaunch, I think in August or September, depending on how things work out. So we're excited about that. For Stallcatcher specifically, we're rebuilding it from scratch on a new platform that that's going to be more stable, that's going to have a more interesting user interface with more personal and global statistics. So you'll be able to better track the research progress, better see how your own contributions kind of fit into the bigger picture. And we're also working on, um, we're looking into developing another spinoff to help with sickle cell disease research. And that's an earnest conversation that's been going on with the University of Pittsburgh. So we're excited about that as well.
Great. And I saw some questions in the Q&A. Looks like Jim was wondering, is there just a website or an app? Just a website, but it is smartphone friendly, right?
Well, it is in principle, and I do know that some people play on a smartphone. Some
I've played
people
on my iPhone before, but iPhones are
have you.
just getting bigger and bigger.
They are, and I think when I try to play it on my iPhone, it's a bit hard for me. It's harder for me to tell whether it's flowing or stalled. And I think a tablet-sized device works better. We did have an actual app in the App Store, in the Android App Store, at one point, and we do intend to pursue that again. I think it expired. If you don't kind of renew that periodically. We did that for an event as well. But our plan is to eventually have all of these projects accessible through a mobile device natively, if that was the question.
Yeah. And then Jim was also wondering, I think, why are the stalls occurring was his question.
Yeah. Oh boy. So I'm really not the person who should be answering that, because again, my background is more in trying to build these systems that analyze the data and provide the kind of research data quality that's needed by combining answers from many different people. Um, but my sort of lay understanding of the stall mechanism is that it's some kind of inflammatory process. We looked at the proximity of the stalls to amyloid plaques. That was a negative result, but that was expected to be negative because once the amyloid oligomers turn into plaques, I think they're relatively inert, excuse me. So in other words, it's sort of the remnant of something toxic that used to be there. So before they turn into plaques, that's where there's the toxicity. And I don't think we've done any studies yet to see if those are implicated. But as far as we can tell, that it is an inflammatory process, and certain things that cause inflammation in the brain may be implicated in that.
I think we have time for one more question. Allison, do you see any other ones in the chat that you want to ask?
I do. I see one more. This is an interesting one from Judy. I hear that there is a test for Alzheimer's. Was this a result of your research?
Wow. Not that I'm aware of. And that's exciting to hear, because it used to be Alzheimer's could only be diagnosed post-mortem, and was based on, I think, on the comorbidity, the presence of both the tau tangles, as they call them, and the amyloid plaques. But I do understand that it can now be diagnosed. Up until recently, I think you knew someone had dementia. You might think they had the Alzheimer's kind of dementia, but you really didn't know for sure. But yeah, I think you can do a test now that helps with that. The interesting angle on stall catchers for that is that you could imagine if there's a different capillary stalling rate if you have Alzheimer's disease, and there are capillaries in the eye, in the retina, that are which is technically part of the brain, then potentially, and we haven't looked into this, when you go to the eye doctor for your routine eye exam, they could actually look at your capillary stall rate just through the eye exam. And maybe, and again, this is, we haven't investigated this, potentially that could be used as an early warning sign for Alzheimer's disease.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Pietro and Allison for the Q&A.
Yeah, thanks for the great questions to everyone.
Awesome. So now we have Tess. She's going to talk a little bit about the All of Us research program. And fun fact for all of our Kansans in the audience, Tess is originally from Meridian, Kansas, which is about an hour away from Olathe.
Yeah, Meridian's right next to
Meriden.
Topeka.
Oh, I was practicing it in my head.
It's right next to Topeka, and I've got family in Olathe, so this one is really close to my heart. So today's webinar is brought to you in part by the network of the National Library of Medicine, which is who I work for. I'm the community engagement coordinator for the Middle Atlantic region. So we serve Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, and New York. But there is a regional office that serves Kansas as well. Every state is covered by the network. And this is a program of the National Library of Medicine. And we are working together with the All of Us research program to bring you these today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the All of Us research program. Its mission is to accelerate health research and medical breakthroughs, which will enable individualized prevention, treatment, and care. So the goal of the program is to help researchers understand more about why people get sick and why some people stay healthy. By looking for patterns, researchers can learn more about what affects people's health. So this program aims to build one of the largest, most diverse data sets of its kind for health research purposes, with the goal of 1 million or more volunteers nationwide who'll sign up to share their health information over time. Next slide, please. So if you're new to the idea of precision medicine, which is one of the goals behind this research project, it's one way that researchers are looking to advance the ability to serve the public health needs of all people. So All of Us is a precision medicine study, but it's a new way of looking at health treatment and prevention as being designed for individuals. That way doctors can take into account factors like lifestyle, environment, biological makeup, all to figure out what the best treatment is for one individual person. Next slide, please. The neat thing is that we already use precision medicine in some ways. And a really good example of that is eyeglass prescriptions. So eye doctors can tell us exactly which lenses will work best for us. But when we visit our regular doctor, they might be more likely to prescribe a treatment or prevention that works well for most people. But we're not all most people, are we? When a lot of people pitch in to help with this research program, we will build a large national database that will help eliminate one size fits all medicine. Next slide, please. So crowdsourcing in citizen science is an NLM and NIH priority topic for engagement and outreach. Through citizen science and crowdsourcing, the NLM hopes that we can engage communities in addressing societal needs and accelerating biomedical science, technology, and innovation. We began this work with our partner SciStarter to create an online tutorial, provide opportunities to engage in citizen science, and choosing curated citizen science projects that align with the All of Us engagement areas. So the NLM and All of Us are really pleased to provide this opportunity to engage with and learn more about citizen science, and keep an eye out for more upcoming citizen science webinars. They've been really fun so far, and it's exciting to kind of dig into these citizen science projects that NLM is promoting. Next slide. And one of the great parts about this research project is that just about everyone in the US can participate as long as they're over 18. Taking research to the community is the best part of this, and All of Us does that. You can actually get started by visiting the website at joinallofus.org. If you join the survey, you can complete the project. You can complete surveys and let researchers get started by including you in the national research program. And you most states have an All of Us representative, so you can find that on the website as well and find out where the nearest community center is or how they're doing virtual programming as well. And the last slide. So thank you so much for joining us. We've really had a great time doing these webinars together. And like I said, stay tuned for more. There are a lot of upcoming ones as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Tess. Yeah, and I'll pass the mic back to Allison now to talk about how people can stay involved with Olathe Public Library.
All right. Thank you, Caroline. You know, I've got the big three right here. You can visit our website, which I'll put in the comments. It's olathelibrary.org. I will talk in a second about this, but there's a lot of resources that you can access, even if you do not live in or around Olathe, Kansas. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But our website is a great place to go. On the website at the very bottom, if you scroll all the way down, you can sign up for our e-newsletter. You'll get just occasional emails about high impact or interesting programs that we're having. And right now, since everything is virtual, again, that means that it's open to you as long as you've got the link, basically. And then we do have an active presence on Facebook. So our Facebook page is also a great place to go.
Great. And I also know you can check out the Field Guide to Citizen Science. Is that right? If you're a Olathe Public Library library card holder.
I like reverse muted myself. Sorry.
It's all good.
We're all supposed to be experts at Zoom now. Come on. It's been like, what, so many months. Anyway, whatever. Okay. So yes, I actually saw one of the print copies today at my library, the Indian Creek Library, but we've got ebook editions of the Field Guide to Citizen Science as well. I believe there's 4 copies of those online. So I included on here how you can check it out online. And this is the part that is relevant to you, even if you don't live in the area, and even if you don't already have a library card with us or our sister system, which is the Johnson County Library. You can actually get an e-card with us from wherever you are in the world and use that to access our ebooks, e-audiobooks, and some of our library card exclusive databases and things. So I will put a link to the e-card application as well, because it's super easy and fast and it'll work immediately. And you can use that to access the ebook edition of Citizen Science, as long as they're not all checked out already.
Awesome. Yeah. And the reason we recommend this book is because Stall Catchers is featured in it, first of all. But second of all, the founder of SciStarter co-authored it with some of our other SciStarter colleagues. And it's just, I think it's a beautiful book, and it gives you a really good overview of the whole field of citizen science and everything you need to get started. So yeah, check it out. Wherever you are in the world, the Field Guide to Citizen Science. And our last call to action for you all, we really hope that you all go to scistarter.org/NLM to participate in the Stall Catchers project. Jim put it in the chat. He's one of our audience attendees today. You can join Jim's Stall Catchers team and start racking up those points and accomplishing real research. So please go to scistarter.org/NLM to discover stall catchers and other citizen science projects that address human and environmental health. This is the page that is sponsored by the network of the National Library of Medicine All of Us Research Program. You'll also discover other summer reading events on this page. We've had a bunch so far. And I know, for example, Judy's in the audience. Hers is coming up from the San Miguel Public Library. I think they're spotlighting Debris Tracker, one of the projects on the page. But there are other summer reading events, just like this one, that spotlight different citizen science projects and also tell you about different libraries from all around the country and all the amazing resources they have. So I just want to thank our partners at the Olathe Public Library and our Stall Catchers partners and the network of the National Library of Medicine All of Us Research Program. Please, everyone, if you take nothing else away from this event, just know that you can turn your curiosity into impact with citizen science projects that you can do at or near your home. So while you're practicing safe social distancing, you can engage in citizen science. And also, we have an ask for you. We hope that you take our survey after this event. We're also going to email it out along with all those links that Allison and Pietro shared. We hope that you take the survey to let us know how we did, how we can improve future events, and anything you might be interested for us to explore or other programs that we can put on for you. So I'm going to quickly ask our panelists, Allison, Pietro, anything else you want people to know before we go?
No, I just thanks so much for being part of this this event. I hope it inspires you to give citizen science a try. There's a lot of cool projects out there. I think All of Us is a great initiative as well. And I mean, I love libraries, so
Yes.
We love to hear that. Well, and I just want to piggyback on what Pietro said. Like, I don't mean to be sappy or anything, but in a time when there's much uncertainty and, many of us feel like things are out of control, it is nice to know that citizen science exists and you can contribute to something bigger than yourself and make a difference. Like, I find that extremely encouraging, like a little bit of light, amidst the darkness.
100% agree. That was the perfect note to end on, Allison. That was very inspiring. And with that, I just want to thank everyone one more time. And we're going to go ahead and close things up for today. See you all on a Zoom event near you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Kansas.